This One's Wife, The Wedding Delusion. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. We all know that this one's wife is deluded. She believes that the world revolves around her, nay, the universe revolves around her. She sees herself as beautiful, talented, charismatic, somebody that you would want to be BFFs with. She believes that every word that she utters is inspirational and momentous. And this is evidenced by what she said when she gave the speech at her wedding reception. A poster, Mickleborough, has reiterated the content of this one's wife's speech on the subreddit Saint This One's Wife. They use a full title, you know that I don't. And therefore, credit's given to Mickleborough for raising this issue, which provides me with a useful opportunity to break down what was said and to place it in its context. Now, as Mickleborough makes the point that traditionally at an English wedding reception the speakers are in order: the father of the bride, the groom, the best man, any other toasts. But it has become increasingly so, and why not, that it's open to the bridesmaids, maids of honour, and indeed the bride to speak also. Some people like to keep it traditional. They're not bothered about making a speech. They're a little bit shy about doing so. Others, motivated by an egalitarian approach, feel it's only appropriate that both parts of the union have opportunity to speak. And then there are others, the narcissists, who must ensure that they are heard because, well, subconsciously they're driven to pursue the prime aims. By giving a speech in front of people who are there because it's their day, they have to listen, and therefore they're easy to control. It's really shooting at open goal. There, of course, is lots of delicious fuel to be obtained. Those listening are likely to be somewhat well-oiled. It's a favourable audience in the main, and therefore they're going to whoop and cheer and clap, and therefore it's easy pickings for plenty of proximate fuel. And there's also the opportunity to manage the facade, if it's a narcissist that does so. And there was no way that this one's wife would ever have given up the opportunity to speak at her own wedding. Not because she believes in fairness or equality, but simply that her narcissism would have told her the world and this audience here need to hear from you. Mickleborough states the text of what she stated, and it's worth going through, but I must warn you that you should have a chuck bucket to hand, as you're likely to experience sensations of nausea. She begins, "On the crux of why I wanted to speak to you all tonight, first of all, it's been a while." She then paused, and then to add to the camera, that got a big laugh. So she starts off with a limp-ass gag. She continues, "But mostly I wanted to share a story that I wrote about the man that I love and the way that we met. Let's call this a modern fairy tale." So she's already elevating the story of her romance to that of being a modern fairy tale. I've explained to you on many occasions that what people understand to be romance is invariably the narcissistic worldview of love. All of the grandiosity, the sweeping gestures, the plucking victory from the jaws of defeat, the grandstanding that goes on, with much that is said in relation to love, comes from a narcissistic perspective. The reading poetry beneath a balcony in the pouring rain, the getting a train, a hot air balloon and a camel to reach the betrothed in order to ensure that that love can be requited, turning up at the church and opening the doors just as the object of their desires is about to marry someone else and stopping it. All of that comes from the narcissistic perspective. The pop songs, the rock songs, the novels, the poetry, the inside of Hallmark cards. Invariably, all of this has been generated by the narcissistic perspective. And, true to form, this one's wife engaged in so much similar in relation to the speech that she gave. She sees it as a fairy tale. She sees what happens to her as magical and amazing. She continues stating, "Once upon a time, there was a girl from LA. Some people called her an actress." Well, what else was she? And there was a guy from London. Some people called him a prince. Yeah, that's what everybody knew him was. So it's not a case of some people. All of those people didn't fully get it, because this is the love story of a boy and girl who are meant to be together. So already she's poured scorn upon people by suggesting you don't get it, showing the haughty arrogance of her narcissism. They meet on July the 3rd, 2016 in London, and they giggle endlessly, which sounds pretty puerile. So the next day they have their second date, and he brings her cupcakes because it's 4th of July. A bittersweet celebration, he says. Ironic, really, her country's independence from his country, yet in this moment they know they don't want to be independent of each other. Note the grandiosity again, comparing their relationship to the past and future of two countries. And after a month of long-distance courtship, they settle into the quiet of Botswana. And amidst whatever momentary worries that creep in, they look at each other and think, whatever world, we're in. Again, notice the victim mentality that she has here. That she talks about how the world, saying whatever world, as if to say, you might not all approve of this, but we don't care. Already, it's forged at this early juncture from her rampant victim mentality that the world is against her and the universe has cursed her. They would love, that's one way of describing it, and garden, and travel, and laugh, and rack up more air miles than any couple could have, so much for your eco-credentials. And when the tides were rough, they squeezed each other tighter. Nothing can break us, they'd say. For this love, she was a fighter. So, tides were rough. When? When were those tides rough? Oh, you mean some perception that people didn't like you because of some newspaper headlines, which were based on your own behaviour. Tides are rough for people, somebody you love dying, losing your job so you've got no money and therefore losing your house, being terminally ill, joining a wealthy family that's known around the world, having a staff running around after your every whim, being reported on regularly, which you love, is not rough tides. But of course, it is to Harry's wife. It is to this one's wife, because whatever she says it is, it must be so. And through her black and white thinking and her melodramatic victimhood, the slightest knockback immediately becomes a catastrophic rough tide. She went on, "I appreciate, respect and honour you, my treasure." Notice the way that she objectifies him, possessing him like a piece of treasure. "For the family we will create, and our love story that will last forever." So I ask you to raise a glass to the astounding assurance that now life begins, and the everlasting knowing that, above all, love wins. Nothing really espousing the virtues of Harry there, is there? Nothing talking about how wonderful a man he is, why he matters, why he's so important to her. It's all about, we have created, or rather I have created a love story, and the rest of the world can sod off if they think it's going to get in its way. And I'm already telling you, you're not going to get away from me, because this is forever. A sickly, sweet wedding speech, which of course is all about her in terms of what she sees and what she does, and nothing at all to do with Harry. It just shows the deluded nature of whereby she thinks that she's the main character in a film. She thinks that this is a fairy tale which is being filmed, that there was a soundtrack with sweeping violins, etc., and an orchestrated backdrop as she gave that speech. She's utterly deluded. And when you look back on this, 5.5 years later, although of course at the time I pointed out precisely what it was in relation to this union, you can just see how ridiculous and deluded she sounds. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.